Hi, I'm Rachel from the Academic Skills Centre, and today we'll be looking at academic tone. So, what is academic tone? When we talk about academic tone, we're referring to the style of language in your essay, the kinds of words or phrases you're using. In an academic essay, your tone should be formal, but not overly complicated or jargon heavy. This can be a hard balance to strike, so in this video, we'll spend some time talking about what academic tone should and shouldn't be, and then look at a few examples. Firstly, your tone should be clear. It's important to remember that writing is a form of communication. We communicate by writing all the time, through messages, texts, and emails. In many ways, an essay is just like that. You're trying to communicate an idea to someone else. This means that your writing should be simple and straightforward. We often think that academic writing is complicated and confusing, and to be fair, an awful lot of bad academic writing is. We've probably all read academic papers that were impossible to understand. When you write your essays, however, you should try to be as clear as possible. Part of being clear is being concise. This means that everything you say as simply as possible, without overly long words or complicated phrases. Use simple words that everyone can understand. Sometimes people who are new to academic writing think that they need to use long, complicated words in order to sound academic. But this just makes their writing hard to understand. Instead, use the simplest words to get across your meaning, and make sure you understand every word you use. It's also important to keep your sentences simple. Avoid long, rambling sentences, and try short, direct sentences instead. It's good to vary your sentences a little, but if your sentences grow longer than about 40 words, you should split them in two. This will make your work much easier to read. So we said that academic writing should be clear and concise, but that doesn't mean it should sound just like you're chatting with a friend. Academic writing should still be formal. Normally, it's best to avoid using personal pronouns like I or me in your academic work. This is because academic writing is supposed to be objective, not just based on your opinion. There are some exceptions to this rule. For instance, if you're writing a reflective essay, you'll be expected to talk about your personal experience. But most of the time, it's best to avoid phrases like I think or in my opinion. Another important rule in formal writing is to avoid contractions. Rather than shortening words like it's, doesn't, or there, you should write them out in full. It is, does not, and they are. Finally, formal writing shouldn't include slang words or phrases. This can include idiomatic phrases like pleased as punch, or more colloquial terms like a big deal or very cool. Now, I know I just said that you shouldn't use slang words, but I'm going to break my own rule with this last instruction. Academic writing should be formal, but it shouldn't be highfalutin. Avoid using fancy words or phrases just to sound academic. First, stay away from academic phrases like due to the fact that, or it can therefore be seen that. These phrases are just a waste of word count. Why not just say because? Also, like we said earlier, it's important to use the simplest word that can communicate your meaning. Avoid searching for synonyms to make your word sound more academic, and don't use a bunch of long words when one short word would do. So, we've talked a lot about what academic tone should sound like, but what does it actually look like in practice? Let's take a look at a few examples. Here are a few examples of word choice. On the left, you'll see a few words that are far too informal for an academic essay. Chuffed and kaput are both too colloquial to be appropriate in an essay. On the right, you'll see a few words that are probably too formal. Do you even know what jocund and nugatory mean? I'll admit that even with a PhD in English, I still had to look up what nugatory means. It's best not to use words that your reader might not know, and definitely avoid words when you're not sure what they mean. In the middle are two totally appropriate words, happy and useless. We all know what these words mean, and they're formal enough for many academic essays. If you're worried they sound slightly too informal for your essay, or if these words don't express your meaning just quite right, you could go one level up. Try words like pleased or satisfied instead of happy, and futile or ineffective instead of useless. Now it's time for a more complicated example. On this page, you'll see 3 sentences that all say essentially the same thing. Pause this video, read the sentences, and try to decide which is the most academic. Once you've decided, spend a minute listing reasons why the other 2 sentences aren't quite as good. All right, let's talk through these together. Let's look at the first sentence. I think the Gen 2 penguins are better than Galapagos penguins because they're bigger, can live better in cold places, and are very fast at swimming. As you probably guessed, this sentence is too informal for an academic essay. Right at the beginning, the writer uses personal pronouns, I think. Then, later on, they use a contraction, there, rather than writing it out in full. More importantly, though, the language in this sentence is too informal. Words like better, bigger, and very fast are all too vague and sound almost childish. Let's look at the second sentence. The species of penguin known as Galapagos is inferior compared to the Gen 2 species of penguin due to the fact that they are greater in dimensions, are increasingly capable of subsisting in strict atmospheres, and are more proficient at moving more swiftly through water. As I'm sure you noticed, this sentence is far too needlessly complex and formal for an essay. It's full of useless phrases. Why does the author say the species of penguin known as Galapagos when they could just say Galapagos penguins? This sentence is 44 words long, almost twice as long as the previous sentence, and it gives us no new information. The phrases it uses, like greater in dimensions, increasingly capable of subsisting in strict atmospheres, and more proficiently at moving more swiftly through water, are just convoluted ways of communicating quite simple ideas. The penguins are bigger, hardier, and faster. So we come to our last sentence, which, as I'm sure you guessed, is the most appropriate for an academic essay. Gen 2 penguins are superior to Galapagos penguins as they are larger, more able to survive in harsh environments, and faster swimmers. It's certainly not a perfect sentence. More able to survive in harsh environments is a little bit wordy, but that's okay. Academic writing doesn't have to be perfect. What's great about this sentence is that it gets across its point clearly. Gen 2 penguins are superior to Galapagos penguins, and then lists its 3 reasons in simple but formal language. Words like superior and harsh environments are academic without being confusing, while words like larger and faster are simple but completely clear. Overall, this last sentence is a good example of clear, formal writing. And that brings us to the end of this video. If you've been watching as part of a class, you should go to your workbook now and do the accompanying activity. If you have any questions for us, don't hesitate to email us. We'd love to hear from you. So good luck and bye for now.